everyone, this is Helloangel.design. Today I'm going to be showing you how I make this cute dress. As you can see, it has a round neck at the front, and I attach a different fabric at the front of the dress as a design, and 2-layer bow. The dress also has a gathered skirt, so when you turn the back of the dress, it has invisible zipper at the center back. And I also attach a belt on the dress. And the dress has a very cute puff sleeve. I made this dress for my daughter for Christmas, and she loved it very much. She has something to say to you guys.
Hi, I love this dress that has 2 bows and a puff-up sleeve. It's really cute, and please subscribe to my mom's YouTube channel, and thank you.
If you have not subscribed, click that red button that says subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell so that when I upload new video, you'll be the first to be notified. If you have any question, put it on the comment section, and don't forget to thumbs up, and let's get started. What you have to do, put the front of the dress together, place these pieces on top of it, and just spin along. Once you have done pinning the both sides in place, this is how it will look. Take it to your sewing machine, stitch it all the way to the end, and you also stitch the other side all the way to the end. Once you have done stitching, take it to your ironing board, press the both seam apart. Don't forget to back stitch at the beginning, back stitch at the end. Finish stitching, this is how it will look. The next thing what you have to do, top stitch on both sides. Once you have top stitch, then put the back of the shoulder seam together. Take your pin along. Once you have done pinning, you also take your lining, you do the same thing. Put the both shoulder seam together. Pin the both shoulder seam in place. And the next thing to do, take it to your sewing machine, stitch the both shoulder seam, and you also do the same thing with your main fabric. Before you stitch your shoulder seam, first thing, top stitch all the way to the end, the both sides, like I explained before. Once you have done that, then you can stitch the both shoulder seam together. And when you're top stitching, also set your sewing machine to 3 or 3.5. That will be the stitch length. So right now I'm stitching the both shoulder seam. I will turn my stitch length to 2.5. I have stitched the both shoulder seam, and I also top stitch. As you can see, the stitch line. I take it to my ironing board, I press the seam apart. The next thing to do is to place your lining on top of it. So put your lining on top of your dress like this. So what you have to do, pin the neckline around. Once you have done pinning the neckline around, take it to your sewing machine, stitch around the neckline. Before stitching, from the center back, measure inside 2 centimeters. If you're using 1 inch, measure inside 1 inch, and then continue from there and then stitch it all around. I have finished stitching the neckline, and I also take it to my ironing board. I just press it. The next thing what you have to do is to put the both side seam of the top dress together. So pick it like this and put it together like this. Take your pin along. Once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine, stitch the both sides seam together, and you also do the same thing with the lining. Stitch the both sides seam together. This is how it is. The next thing to do is to take your sleeve. When you cut your sleeve, take a scissor, snip around the sleeve head, and also make sure you also snip around where the front and the back is. So for me, I only snip the front, but I didn't snip the back. So, and I also snip the sleeve head. So what you're going to do right now, take it to your sewing machine, stitch around 1/2 inch once you've done stitching, and then also go ahead and stitch a gather stitch thread on the sleeve head. Don't forget to back stitch at the beginning, back stitch at the end. The next thing what I'm about to do here, I will top stitch the sleeve around. Once you're finished top stitching the sleeve, the next thing what you have to do, open the sleeve inside out like this, put the both side of the sleeve together and just pin across. Put them together like this. And just pin them together. Putting the side of the sleeve together, then you turn it inside out. This will be the front. Once you've done it like that, then you can stitch the gather stitch thread on your sleeve head. Make sure you set your sewing machine to the longest stitch and just stitch along. I have stitched the both sleeve together. This is how it finally looks. As you can see, I haven't gathered it yet. The next thing what you have to do, you take your top dress, pin the both armhole together. So you're pinning the lining and the main fabric together. Take it to your sewing machine, stitch around the both armhole. Set your sewing machine to the longest stitch or 4.5. Now stitch it first before stitching my sleeve. So go ahead and stitch the both armhole in place. I have stitched the both armhole together. The next thing to do is to put your sleeve on the armhole. So turn your dress inside out like this. Before you place it on your armhole, make sure you know the front of your sleeve and the back, because the front of the sleeve I snip it. So put it inside like this. And first put the both sides seam together. Just pin that in place. Then pin the head of the sleeve head. Place it at the shoulder seam. So right now you can gather your sleeve. So pin that in place. Once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine, stitch around. And you also do the same thing on this side. I'm about to stitch the sleeve right now. So my stitches allowance is 1/2 inch. I have stitched the sleeve in place. This is how it is. You can see the puff sleeve. I just gather it and all the gather is on the sleeve head. This is how it finally look. You can see. For the side seam, I just open the side seam a little bit because I'm going to attach a belt. So what you have to do, just take your scissors, open it a little bit on both sides, not all the way, just open it a little bit. What you have to do is you take your belt, because I'm going to stitch a belt on the dress. So the length that I have here is total 36 inches. After I cut a diagonal like this, so the total is 36 inches. So you can, if you're cutting this belt, you can make it 38 and then you put your ruler, just make it a diagonal and cut it out. So what you have to do right now, take it to your sewing machine, put them together, make sure both front are facing each other, just stitch it all the way, and you stitch it diagonal, then open it inside out and press it properly. I have stitched the belt all the way to the end. The next thing to do is just to turn it inside out. You can also use the needle to poke out the corners properly. So the next thing to do is to take it to your ironing board and press it very nice. I have ironed the belt. This is how it finally look. The next thing what you have to do, your side seam, measure inside 1/2 inch. From the waistline, you measure inside 1/2 inch. I have done that already. Once you have done that, then you take your belt, place it like this. So place it on the seam allowance. Take your pin along. Then once you have done pinning, then turn it like this. Put them together. So the next thing to do, take it to your sewing machine, give the straight stitch all the way to the end, and you also do the same thing on this other side. So go ahead and stitch it in place. I have stitched the belt together. I just give it a straight stitch. Do the same on the side, just a straight stitch. This is how it finally looks. The next thing to do is to take your skirt to your sewing machine and gather your skirt. So I cut 3 pieces for the made fabric. So I'm going to join the both sides seam together, and I also cut the same thing, 3 pieces of fabric for the lining. I'm going to also join the both sides seam together. Once I have done with that, then I can gather the skirt all around. I have gathered the skirt and I pin it on the waistline. I pin the lining separate and I pin the made fabric separate. So just take it to your sewing machine, stitch around the both waistline. My stitch allowance is 1/2 inch. Back stitch at the beginning, back stitch at the end. I have stitched the skirt together. This is how it is when you turn it inside out. This is how inside look. I just take it to my overlocker the raw edges. From the very top of the neckline, so you measure down 17.5 inches. So I did the same thing on both sides, also with the lining. What you have to do, put them together like this. Put them together, pin it in place. Pin from where the 17.5 inches end, pin it all the way down. I will just put a different pin here. Next thing to do, take it to your sewing machine, stitch from here all the way down, and you also do the same thing with the lining. Put the lining together like this. Pin it in place. And just pin it all the way down. Also take it to your sewing machine, stitch the lining in place. I have stitched it in place from where my zip will end all the way down to the end, and I also did the same thing with the lining. As you can see, just take it to an ironing board, press the seam apart. So the next thing to do is to stitch your zip. What you have to do, open your zip like this, turn it, then place it at the very top of the neckline. At the very top, place it on the neckline. Take your pin, pin it all in place. If you watch my previous video, I have shown how to stitch invisible zip. On this tutorial, I'm not going to show it again. So after I just spin, I'll use thread my needle, use hand stitch to stitch the zip first before taking it to my sewing machine and stitch it all over again. So go and watch the tutorial and I will show you more details about what I'm talking about. So I will just spin it all the way to the end right now and then use hand stitch. I have stitched the invisible zip on the dress, and I also stitched the lining. Just stitch everything together. The next thing what you have to do is to hem your dress. Take it to your sewing machine, fold it and then fold it again and give the top stitch around. And you also do the same thing with the lining. But for this dress that I'm making, I'm going to stitch a lace as a design for the lining. So I will just take it to my overlock the raw edges and then top stitch all over again. So it will then look like this. So while I hem the made fabric, so the made fabric will be resting on the lace design. So this is how the dress will finally look when I'm done hemming the dress. So Come with me and let's stitch the lace together. So what I'm going to do here, I'll just place it on my overlocker, overlock all the raw edges, and then take it to my iron board, press it very nice, and top stitch. So when you're going to iron, you can see that this is the raw edges. You just turn it like this and just press along. I'm about to top stitch the lace on the lining. Don't forget back stitch at the beginning, back stitch at the end. What I'm about to do right now is to hem the dress. So just go ahead and hem your dress all around. I have hemmed the dress and this is the lace. This is how it will finally look. And this is the dress. Thank you so much for watching my tutorial. Hope you have a wonderful time and stay blessed. Bye.